Hey, Jason here from Simply Swider. So, if your Maytag washer is leaving you with a tub full of soaking wet clothes instead of spinning them out, don't worry. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to fix it. Good news is most of these fixes you can absolutely do yourself and save a bunch of money on a service call. Before we get started, if you run into any questions, jump into our Facebook group. Links in the description. We've got thousands of people helping each other fix their appliances and I pop in there daily to help out. Look, I get it. Nothing's more frustrating than opening that washer lid expecting damp clothes ready for the dryer, and instead you're looking at a swampy mess. But here's the thing. Maytag washers are pretty reliable machines, and when they stop spinning, it's usually one of a handful of common issues. We're going to walk through each one, starting with the simplest fixes and working our way up to the more involved repairs. All right, so the very first thing we're going to do is run the diagnostic mode on your Maytag. This little trick saves me time on probably 60% of my service calls. It's like having the washer tell you what's wrong instead of playing guessing games. Here's how we access it. First, rotate that selector knob counterclockwise a few times, then set it to the regular position. Now for the key sequence, I'll say this slowly. Rotate the dial 3 clicks to the right, then 1 click to the left, then one more click to the right. Remember it as RRRLR. If you need to pause the video to follow along, that's totally fine. If you did it correctly, all the LED lights will start blinking like a Christmas tree. Now rotate the dial 1 more click to the right and press start. The washer's going to run through its self-diagnostic and show you any error codes. Now, some of the codes you might see that point to spinning issues are F0E5 for load balance problems, F5E1 or E2 for lid lock issues, F7E1 for shift actuator problems, or F7E6 for motor issues. Write down whatever codes pop up. They're going to be your roadmap for fixing this thing. Moving on to one of the most common culprits I see, the drive hub kit. You can see on the screen right now where this little component sits below the wash plate, and trust me, when this thing goes bad, your washer's not spinning anything. Here's what happens. When your washer switches from agitating to spinning, the transmission has to disengage from the agitator and connect with the basket instead. The drive hub kit is what makes that connection possible. But over time, especially with heavy use, these plastic components wear down or crack. To check if this is your problem, try manually rotating the wash plate. It should turn together with the basket. If the plate spins but the basket doesn't move, you've found your issue. You'll also want to pull out the agitator and take a look at the hub itself for any visible cracks or worn spots. I had this customer last month whose Maytag was making all the right noises during the spin cycle, but her clothes were still soaked. Turned out the drive hub had completely stripped out. Looked like someone took sandpaper to it. The part cost her about $20, but plan on spending 45 minutes to an hour on this repair. You'll need basic hand tools, and you're looking at removing the agitator, wash plate, and getting down to the transmission area. This is a moderate difficulty repair, doable for most DIYers, but take your time. Another thing that'll stop your washer dead in its tracks, something stuck between the inner and outer tubs. Don't ask me how, but socks have this magical ability to escape the basket and wedge themselves in the worst possible spots. Here's the easiest way to diagnose this. With the washer unplugged, grab the inner tub with both hands and try to rotate it manually. It should turn smoothly and freely with just light resistance. If it feels completely stuck, jerky, or you hear scraping or grinding noises, there's likely something jammed between the tubs. I remember this lady from our Facebook group. She was convinced her transmission was shot because the tub wouldn't budge. Turned out to be a sock that had worked its way down between the tubs. If you can see the stuck item around the upper edge, you're in luck. You can usually fish it out without major disassembly, but if it's wedged down at the bottom, that's a whole different story. You're looking at separating the tubs, which requires specific tools and a fair bit of patience. That might be one of those times where calling someone like me makes sense. Let's talk about lid switches. This applies to top load washers only, but it's a biggie. By design, these machines won't spin with the lid open, which is great for safety, but not so great when the switch goes bad and thinks the lid's always open. If you ran that diagnostic mode earlier and got error codes F5E1 or E2, the lid switch is probably your culprit. You can also do a visual inspection. The switch is usually located under the top panel or near the lid hinge. Look for any obvious damage, loose wires, or corrosion. What's happening is The switch isn't completing the electrical circuit that tells the motor it's safe to start spinning. It's like having a car that won't start because it thinks the door's open. The good news, these switches are usually between 20 and $100, and they're pretty straightforward to replace. Way cheaper than calling someone like me out for a service call. Now we're getting into some of the more complex components, the shift actuator. This little device is what switches your washer from the gentle agitating motion to high-speed spinning. You can find it at the bottom of the machine, usually near the motor and transmission. If your diagnostic mode showed error code F7E1 or E5, the shift actuator is likely acting up. What's happening is the actuator can't engage the right gears to get that drum spinning at full speed. Sometimes it's just a loose connection or a worn component inside the actuator that can be repaired. Other times, the whole thing needs replacing. To check it out, you'll need to get underneath the washer and visually inspect the actuator for damage, broken wires, or loose connections. You can also test it with a multimeter. A good actuator should show zero or very low resistance. If the readings are all over the place, it's time for a replacement. Parts usually run between $20 and $100. Here's one that'll really throw you for a loop: a bad capacitor. This component gives the motor that extra burst of power it needs to get spinning. When it goes bad, you might hear the motor humming or clicking, but nothing actually moves. I had this guy call me because his washer sounded like it was trying to start but never actually got going. Just kept making this frustrated humming noise. Turned out his capacitor had swollen up like a balloon and was leaking all over the place. These things can actually melt or burst when they fail. Before we check the capacitor, safety first, make sure your washer is unplugged and has been sitting for at least 30 minutes. Capacitors can hold a dangerous electrical charge even when the machine is off. Now tilt the washer and look for any bulging, leaking, or burn marks. If it looks damaged, that's your answer right there. You can also test it with a multimeter that has capacitor testing capability. Compare the reading to what's printed on the capacitor case. They usually run 50 to $100, but it beats buying a new washer. Drive belts are another common failure point, and they can cause several different issues. These belts connect the motor to the drum, so when they stretch out, slip off, or break completely, you're not getting any spinning action. In most Maytag top loaders, the belts located at the bottom connecting the motor to what's called the splutch cam assembly. You'll want to visually examine the belt for wear, fraying, cracking, or if it's just sitting there loose instead of having proper tension. The belt should be snug but not overly tight, and it needs to be properly aligned on the pulleys. If it's stretched out from years of use, it might slip during the spin cycle, even though it looks okay. These belts are pretty cheap, usually 20 to $70, and they're not too difficult to replace. Just rotate the belt manually while pulling it away from the pulleys. The motor coupling is what connects the motor to the transmission, and when it fails, you get zero spinning action. This doesn't apply to belt-driven washers, but if you've got a direct drive Maytag, this could be your problem. The coupling is designed to break if the washer gets overloaded or if something jams the drum. It's like a safety fuse that protects the more expensive motor and transmission, but sometimes they just wear out from normal use over the years. You'll find it right between the motor and transmission. If it's broken, you'll usually see obvious damage like cracked or missing pieces. The good news is these couplings are cheap, typically 20 to $50, and they're designed to be replaceable. It's actually easier to replace than most of the other components we've talked about. You can see the most affected models on the screen right now. We're looking at a lot of the Maytag Centennial series, the Bravos line, and many of the newer top load models. The issues we've covered today are pretty common across most Maytag top loaders, especially models that are 5 years or older. Some of the front loading models can have similar drive belt and motor coupling issues, but the diagnostic procedures are going to be a bit different. The good news is that Maytag generally builds solid machines, so when something does go wrong, it's usually one of these common fixable problems rather than a catastrophic failure. That's how you troubleshoot a Maytag washer that won't spin. Start with that diagnostic mode. It'll save you tons of time and point you in the right direction. Then work through these common causes, starting with the simplest stuff, like checking for stuck items and working your way up to the more complex components. Most of the time, you're looking at a part that costs between 20 and $100 versus a service call that could run you several $100s. Even if you decide not to tackle the repair yourself, running that diagnostic mode and knowing the error code will save you money when talking to a technician. You'll know exactly what needs fixing and can get an accurate quote up front. If you guys know someone who's having appliance troubles, please send them the link to this video or a link to my channel where I have tons of other videos showing how to fix pretty common issues with appliances, sometimes for free or as little cost as possible. It sure beats having a repairman come out and spending several hundred for them to fix it when it could be something so simple. If this helped you get your Maytag spinning again, hit that like button and drop a comment below. Let me know which fix worked for you. Really helps other people with the same problem. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. We'll get this out to more folks who need to save some time and money. Thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day.